Welcome to episode 3 of the Perth Blue Baggers pod. My name is Louis, your host.
And I'm Marty on special comments.
Siren sounds at the MCG. Footy can be fun if you're a Carlton fan. They remember the winning feeling. A big day for Harry Mackay and for Patrick Cripps. A huge day for Michael Voss. A big victory for the Blues. And boy, did they need it.
So in this episode, we will be reviewing our round 10 clash against the Sydney Swans and previewing our round 11 clash against the Gold Coast Suns. So let's get into it. It wasn't to be at the SCG, with Carlton falling to Sydney by 52 points on Friday night. Despite a strong start, the Blues were outplayed. Nick Newman and Mark Pittonet performed well for us, while Charlie Curnow broke a record to be the first player in Carlton history to kick a goal in 57 consecutive games. Sydney's fast movement and dominance in the centre bounce secured their comprehensive win.
Yeah, it wasn't a great performance by the Blues. In fact, it was probably the poorest performance overall for the season. And I guess the question is how much of it you put down to injuries. Because we had 14, I think it was, I counted 14 of our players out, which is a fair hit. But what you do expect is that every time we go out in the field, we're competitive. And I think there were stretches of the game where we weren't competitive at all. And that was the disappointing element. So we started really well. We kicked the first 4 goals of the game, in fact. And things were looking really positive.
Oh, yeah.
But it probably even makes you wonder why we fell away so badly, given that we started so well. We were probably completely outplayed in the second quarter by the Swans, but we're still, because of the strong start, we're still in the hunt, only the 14 points down. And in the third quarter, we tended to have really good third quarters all season. But, this was that was probably the lowest point of the match, where they kicked 7 goals in a row in the third quarter and really it was one-way traffic. And I think that's when the lack of intensity would have frustrated a lot of Blues supporters, because it doesn't matter whether you're the first choice player or whether you're coming in because others are injured. We expect to see that commitment and intensity and attack on the footy. And, that's one thing that was really the turning point last season, was when we started putting that energy and passion in around the football and didn't let the others get the ball first, basically. And that third quarter, I think we probably dropped off that intensity significantly. The last quarter was more competitive, but overall the result was a bit of a different, bit of a disappointing one. If you actually look at a lot of the stats, they're not that different. They don't tell the full story. They had more disposals, marks, all those sorts of things inside 50s, but not by a lot. One indicator for me is the tackling rate. We got out-tackled by a fair margin again, and I think that's probably a common element of the last few weeks. Yeah. We play well when we tackle hard and we put in the 1%ers. We also lost the 1%ers by a fair margin too.
Yeah.
So that's where some of the problems were for us this time round.
Yeah, very disappointing. So what positives can be taken out of it?
Well, I don't know if you can call this a positive, but I think if you get smashed when you're playing your best team, when you're playing your best teams in, you wonder where the improvement's going to come from. And we know that we didn't probably have our best team out in the field there, and you've got the likes of Adam Sard and hopefully others like Motlop not far away, and Chera at some stage will come back. So, there's some quality sitting in the sheds. And I don't know if I can call this a positive, but it probably indicates that we've got a fair bit of improvement left in us.
Yeah, so not really many positive there. Well, let's get into the notable performances of that match.
Yeah, look, I think pretty much all of the Blues fan base would say Nick Newman was the best on ground for us.
Yeah, 100%.
The guy who had the most disposals on the field. Not bad when you're coming off the back line. But he was particularly strong early. His first half was really strong, but pretty solid match. I mean, this guy is a very consistent player for us.
Yeah.
He rarely plays a bad game, and I think he was probably a bit head and shoulders over the rest this time round. It was a bit leaner pickings than normal. I'm going to go with Blake Acres again. I thought he ran really hard, and if you actually look at the metres gained, he had the highest by a fair margin in our team. Mm-hmm. And he had 4 tackles, and like I said, I always value those sorts of things. I think that he was pretty effective again. So I couldn't really fault him too much. So he's got my 4 votes. Pitnet, I want to recognise his efforts. He was pretty solid most of the day. He wasn't disgraced. He's now taken on Max Gawn and then Grundy in successive weeks, and he can hold his head high in both contests.
Yeah.
I think he's in the strongest form of his career, and I'm not quite sure whether I would have played him at the start of the season, but you can't leave him out at the moment. He's just playing too well, and I think that he's one guy that did keep that intensity up. He won several clearances himself, so he's not only winning the tap, he's actually getting the ball forward sometimes himself. 2 votes to Kennedy. Kennedy was pretty reasonably effective in taking Isaac Heaney, who's probably the Brownlow medal favourite. I didn't think that Heaney was as effective as some of the other players on the ground, like Warner. And so I'd say he played pretty well. He also kicked a goal too. Kennedy, he's always pretty brave and pretty gutsy. So 1 to Kennedy, 2 to Kennedy, and 1 to Brodie Kemp, who was pretty solid down back. You have to wonder why it was dropped previously.
Yeah, honestly.
For mine, even with McGovern playing, he's probably your 3rd tall, and it had quite a number of intersect marks, and I thought it was pretty solid on the whole.
Yes, agreed with those.
The underrated? Yeah, look at this guy. He's only new to the club, but he's put a lot of effort in, and I think Elijah Hollands played pretty well. Got a fair bit of the ball, including some touches in the second half when not a lot of other players were getting their hands on it. He'll always have a crack. I think he's been a reasonably consistent player for us this year too. So Elijah Hollands for mine.
Yep. So let's get into the preview of round 11 versus the Gold Coast Suns.
Yeah, so look, we always seem to play teams when they're in form. We played Geelong when they were top. We played GWS when they were top. We played Sydney when they were top.
Collingwood.
We played Collingwood when they were in form. Anyway, we were playing Gold Coast after they come off one of their best wins ever, where they absolutely smashed Geelong up in Darwin. And they had winners all over the ground. I mean, Noah Anderson had 42 touches, pretty phenomenal. Flanders 37, Rao 35. I mean, Rao's a handful at best of time. Toot Miller's a quality effort. Sexton 32. They had a lot of strong performers going forward. They had both Humphrey and Lukosius kick 5, Kings kick 4, and day 3. I mean, they had a lot of good players around the ground over the weekend. And look, they don't tend to play as well away, Gold Coast, so I'm pleased that this one's at home. So I think it'll be a good contest. Look, there's a little bit of history recent history between Blues and Gold Coast. If you remember, Gold Coast was the famous game last season where we turned it all around.
Yeah.
Where we had a really lousy first quarter and we just blew them away, blew them off the park in the second quarter. Who can forget that second quarter? It just kind of came from nowhere. Mid-season last season, just before the bye.
Changed everything for the rest of that season.
It's almost like we flicked the switch that day and never looked back.
Yeah.
So, and look, that game late in the season, we had a thrilling match late in the season too. Charlie Curnow took a big mark down back to save the day. We were quite worried his heart and mouth stuff.
Also, his ability to get us in front, and because we were down by 40 points, something like that.
Yeah, that's right. He was part.
Yeah, it was part of the comeback.
Part of the match
as usual.
Comeback. Well, I'll tell you what, when he really takes the game by the scruff of the neck, he's pretty phenomenal. I think, what are we looking for? We're looking for a 4-quarter performance.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've played that many 4-quarter performances.
I don't think any of them, really. Apart from maybe North Melbourne, but
Yeah.
that's not a very good indicator.
I mean, this was supposed to be on paper. When we looked at the draw, we thought we had 5 winnable matches broadly and then 5 tough matches.
Yeah.
Now, we've come off the 5 tough matches. But I think the competition's so even that you can't take anything for granted at the moment.
Yeah, I wouldn't even take West Coast.
No, they were easy beats before.
Yeah.
Now they're back in it. Like, there isn't many weak teams. North Melbourne's the obvious one.
Yeah.
Probably the Tigers are not in great form at the moment.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of others. So you've got to turn up each week, and if you don't, and Geelong found that last week against the Suns, so we've got to turn up, otherwise we'll get beaten again. I think at 6-4-2, I think there's an extra, onus on us to really get the job done at home against a team that hasn't won a lot of away games. Now they've got the master coach in Hardwick taking them on this year, so maybe that all changes.
That's.
But look, I would certainly hope we can get the job done this weekend.
Indeed. So, we kind of went through how we can beat them. We'll just do predictions now. How much?
Oh, look, just a little bit more on how we can beat them. Like I said, a 4-quarter effort. I think that when we bring the pressure and intensity, that's when we're playing well. And early in the game, you saw we made them make errors last week when we brought the intensity. But can we keep it up for 4 quarters? I guess that's the... We also moved the ball slowly last time, and I didn't think that we moved the ball well. One man who might make a difference to that is Adam Sard. He moves the ball well, So I think he could be a bit of a key. McGovern's got another game under his belt back. I think that he might help set up a few things. And then if you move the ball fast and you get those big boys in, Charlie and Harry, one out. One other guy who, I don't know if he'll get up in time, but don't underestimate Fogarty for his intensity. I think we've missed Sard's run. We've missed Fogarty's intensity. So maybe a bit of class from Chera. Look, we won't get Chera back, but we could get one or even both of the other two. That could make a big difference.
And Motlop.
Oh, Motlop, yeah. Well, see, I think Motlop is a very promising young forward for us, and probably got the most talent of all of those forwards.
Yeah.
Hasn't been fit yet this year. So look, he might even come straight back in if he is fit.
He might go into reserves first, just because we don't quite have a sort of full, knowledge on how his body works, probably. So they might take the safe option, but I don't know.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if he gets picked if he's fit.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see on that one. I would think after a loss of that magnitude that there'd be a few guys missing out and a few guys coming in.
Yeah, a bit of a change. Let's do predictions.
Yeah, look, I reckon we'll get up by 15 points. I'm going out on a bit of a limb. We haven't been winning by much at all.
Yeah.
But I think we can probably put a little bit of space between ourselves.
I'll give it 3 goals and probably 19 points.
There you go. Some pretty similar predictions here from us.
Okay, so thank you for watching episode 3 of the Perth Blue Baggers podcast. If you have any thoughts about the game, please comment below or DM us on Instagram. If you haven't already, please subscribe to us on YouTube and follow on Instagram. If you have any suggestions, please comment or DM too. Thank you. Up the Baggers.
Go on the Blues.